Classes in session, Hitting the Books College Basketball Show. It's a Selection Sunday edition of the Hitting the Books Show. It's finally here, Selection Sunday. The NCAA tournament field will be announced later today. But before that, we have the last five conference tournament championships to be decided. Ian Cameron, Connor Mack with you. It's a profitable Saturday, pretty much overall for both of us. It was a really great afternoon. Unfortunately, I think the one side I chose as best bet, which was Jacksonville State, was the one side that lost for me as far as the top plays. I mean, we had Tennessee, we had Tulane. We could have used any of those, but no, give credit to Liberty. They played well, but just a crazy Saturday. St. John's rolls again. Duke, unbelievable job by Duke, to win the ACC tournament in spite of no Cooper Flagg and Malik Brown. Shows you they're more than those two players. They've been that's as impressive as it gets. How about Tennessee taking down Auburn? Florida just rolled Alabama in the second half. That Florida team, it's time to start talking about Florida winning the national championship. They look really good. What they did to Alabama was hella impressive yesterday. And how about those two late games? You talk about four really good teams we saw out west. Irvine and UC San Diego was a really good game for the Big West Championship, and Grand Canyon and Utah Valley to end the day in the WAC Championship. Of course, UC San Diego and Grand Canyon winning those games. Don't put it past one of those teams or either of those teams to make some noise and maybe pull an upset in the first round. Grand Canyon's capable of it, especially now that Tyon Grant Foster is healthy. And UC San Diego is very capable of it as well. What I love about the Tritons, they really do play as a team. They don't have a dominant superstar, but they really play as a team. They make their threes. They play great defense. They've got all the elements of a team that could pull an upset first weekend. C-Mac, you're just some overall thoughts from you on Saturday's action.
Nothing. It was pretty good. I just think of the losses. And I have to give it to Duke. That's why I kind of said something with no Flag. They just played a great second half. Defense just turned up. I talked about this defense. They're going to need it. With no Flag, and that's what happened. Louisville couldn't hit a shot. I thought I was pretty good in that game. Up 5 at half, having 6.5, but they played a great second half. So hats off to them.
Yeah, no question. All right, let's get into Sunday. We've got 5. This will be a short show because there's only 5 games on the docket, the last 5 conference championship games. We'll begin with the Ivy League. This one starts at the top of the hour at noon Eastern. Cornell and Yale. We've got Yale 5.5-point favorites, 158 the total. Cornell is one of my futures that I've got pending, plus 300 on them to win the Ivy League. But if I didn't have that futures ticket on them, I'd probably lean to taking the points here. Yale against a Princeton team that, didn't have their best season, and Yale was they were trailing with just over a minute left against Princeton yesterday and had to escape with the victory. And outside of Yale, who's been the best team start to finish in the Ivy League this year, that being said, there's nobody hotter down the stretch, playing better down the stretch in this conference than the Cornell Big Red. In fact, I think you could argue Cornell maybe slightly better recent form in this conference than Yale. So I think Cornell can push this right down to the wire and maybe even challenge to win outright. Maybe I'm just a little bit biased because I got this Cornell ticket to win the tournament, but I think they can hang here with Yale. And I like the over, but it's a very high number. That's my only concern. C-Mac, what do you think here in the Ivy?
Yeah, I mean, both these teams shoot the ball well. And that's what Cornell's really going to need to do in this game. Yale has a pretty good defense. I know it's a championship game. This one maybe is lower scoring, but I could just see, points being scored because I think Yale can kind of do whatever they want, against this defense of Cornell. I mean, that's why they won both games.
They scored 103 and 92 against them in the 2 games. Yeah, pretty much did whatever they wanted.
I think they can again, and they're the best team. I think this line's about right. I kind of lean Cornell as well. I was looking at, I was going through this short amount of games, was trying to find, a couple props. They had a low-scoring game yesterday too against Princeton, and then you have this bad Cornell team. I might take a 3-pointer here with a couple guys, maybe with Yale or Cornell. I'll shoot out a message here if I do. I've been looking at them.
Yeah, no question. So, like I said, props, and I'm going to look at a few player props once we get into the NCAA tournament for sure. I'll start dabbling more in some player props, and I'll mention those on the shows this week. All right, A10 championship game. This is a good old-fashioned in-state rivalry renewed here for the A10 title. George Mason and VCU. VCU 7.5, 8-point favorites, 127.5 the total. Everyone on the bubble is the biggest VCU Rams fan here in this game because VCU is getting in the NCAA tournament as an at-large, in my opinion. I think they are, even if they lose this game here to George Mason. They don't want any part of George Mason, the bubble teams, winning this because George Mason, obviously their only path to the tournament is winning today, and that knocks someone off the bubble if George Mason is able to win this game. I have George Mason plus 900 futures ticket to win the Atlantic 10 tournament. So I'm certainly cheering that on. If I didn't have that, though, I would take George Mason plus the 8. I really would. I think VCU did not cover finally yesterday in their game against Loyola Chicago. They had to really battle. They finally, for a change, this team wasn't just raining shots left and right. I said, how is this VCU team every single game, they're just making a shit ton of shots? They finally struggled shooting the basketball by their standards yesterday in that game. And now they got to face Tony Skinn and this well-coached George Mason team and this excellent George Mason defense, which I think, has the capabilities to allow them to hang around in this game. So, if I didn't have the futures ticket, I'd be taking George Mason here plus the points. I still might because VCU can win and George Mason covers, but I think this is a competitive game when it's all said and done. This is interesting because I went back and looked, and just off the top of my head, the A10 tournament games, CMAC, many of them have gone over in the championship game, and the pattern of these games is that they go over because the totals are so low. And it's a championship game, so teams aren't going to stop fouling until the end. But I look back the last 5 to 10 years for these A10 title games on these Sunday afternoons. Yeah. A lot of them have gone over because a lot of the totals have been in the low 130s or 120s, like this one is, and they've just gone over the total because the total is so light. So, yes, it's George Mason's defense is great, but with VCU kind of off one of their roughest shooting games, I think they'll be a little bit better. They're going to want to push pace even more because George Mason's half-court defense is really good. So I think the total's low enough it could creep over here in this one. CMAC, what do you think here with George Mason, VCU? It's basically Richmond versus Fairfax, Virginia here.
Yeah, this is a low total. I mean, I don't see how there's going to be a ton of points in this game because both these teams' defenses are just that good. And we've seen it before. This is the biggest key here. George Mason, they had a pretty good shooting night yesterday. That's my only lone issue. I took the 8.5 with them because I think this game is going to be played in the 60s, and I think they can hang around because I really haven't wanted to go against VCU a ton all year. But and over the years, I know this year they lost by whatever it was, 12 this year, something like that, 14. These usually have been very good matchups, though, because they're similar type teams. George Mason and VCU.
George Mason led at the half. I should point out that regular season.
Yeah, they kind of crumbled in the second.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I like the points here. I think that's all I need to say. Just need to be decent from the floor, I think, here in this basketball game.
And that game got to 124, and that game wasn't close at the end, so there was no fouling late. So that's why I think 120.
Yeah, because it
could get
broke away.
Just because of how low this number is, but we'll see. All right, SEC championship. This whole tournament has been really good. I mean, yesterday's game turned into a bit of a blowout. Alabama, Florida, the second semifinal, but most of the games have been outstanding in this tournament. Tennessee, Auburn. You talk about a great basketball game because we had a little offense. We had a little defense. We had a ton of physicality, a ton of intensity. That was a tremendous college basketball game, Tennessee and Auburn yesterday. No question about that. And this one could be just as good. Tennessee and Florida. We've got Florida 5-point favorites, 143.5 the total in this game. This is the one I hedged a little bit. I'm not, I always say hedging is for gardeners. I don't normally believe in that philosophy from a betting standpoint, but I have Tennessee plus 600 to win the SEC tournament. I don't feel great about it because Florida looks like a team on a mission, man. They really, really do. I mean, it was impressive the way they just completely and utterly destroyed Alabama in that game yesterday. So I get that feeling Florida could win this game. I'm going to cheer for Tennessee because I got the futures ticket. I'd probably lean to the +5 if I didn't have that Tennessee plus 600 bet going into today. But Florida, man, I think what's impressive about Florida is they've got the size. They're making. They've got obviously the Walter Clayton was again, very strong yesterday in that game with 22 points. They got Will Richard, Elijah Martin. They've got just a mix of size, shooting, rebounding. Their defense, I mean, how many times have we talked about Todd Golden's team as far as the defense is concerned and how much better it's gotten this year, especially compared to last year? This is a team that can do it all. 100% they can. It's been very impressive to see. They're a pretty good free throw shooting team. Tennessee, though, playing great in this tournament, too. This is a great, great game on paper. Hopefully it lives up. Like I said, if I didn't have Tennessee plus 600, I would still think that the Vols, the way they're playing, they just knocked off Auburn. They could keep this game close, but I don't need to really take that considering I've got the futures ticket on the Vols here. Total could go either way, Nick. I mean, the Tennessee-Auburn game stayed under. Texas flew over, but I think that was more of a product of Texas and the huge over team that they were down the stretch. This total could go either way. Not a strong opinion on it. C-Mac, what do you think here for the SEC championship?
I mean, I think it's gone too high. What gives, though, here? These teams, like this Florida team that's scoring 90 points a game, and the Tennessee offense, who's been very, very good lately, or these defenses that, are top 10. Florida just about there in a bunch of categories, and Tennessee is. We saw it yesterday against Auburn, and that's why I kind of wanted the points. This is tough. Florida's rolling. I mean, both these games, too, at each place just got blown out. I mean, 73-43, 64-44. That could happen again where one of these teams, one of them just shoots the ball and one gets their ass drilled. That's why I lean to the under, especially at 144. If they're hitting a bunch of threes. And Florida's red hot. I mean, Clayton, you're getting no value on his threes now. I mean, it was like 6 for 10 yesterday, 6 for 11.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Not bad.
But Martin, Rich, they have a load. I mean, both these teams, very, very good, playing well. Should be a great game. Yeah.
No doubt. All right, we got 2 games left. Next up, AAC championship game, UAB and Memphis. We've got the Memphis Tigers, 3.5-point favorites, 158 the total here in this game. We're on UAB. You don't even have to ask, right? It's funny. This is the one future I didn't hedge. I didn't hedge with Memphis. I'm letting this one ride. I'm letting this one ride because, first of all, with UAB, the price isn't as good. I'm getting plus 300 on Cornell, George Mason plus 900, Tennessee plus 600. UAB, it's a little lower, plus 600 compared to some of the others. Still a good price, but I feel that confident in UAB. Andy Kennedy's a tournament coach. He took Ole Miss to the NCAA tournament many, many years ago. He's good in the conference tournaments. Memphis is just continues to be absolutely pathetic as a favorite. I mean, they are almost death to one's bankroll laying points. That's how awful they have been for the majority of the season. Now, the difference is this is a smaller favorite now, finally. They're not laying 9 like they did against Wichita State. They're not laying 9, 8.5 like they did yesterday against Tulane. They're only laying 3.5 here in this game. So, now you're not getting as many. The UAB's got to come damn close to winning outright. And Memphis played well against UAB, but I have a hard time thinking it's going to be easy for Memphis to beat this team once again. Andy Kennedy, I still have to give him a bit of a coaching advantage here over Penny. And there's no disrespect to Penny. Penny's an excellent recruiter, but I think in terms of adjustments and stuff in game, there's better out there than Penny Hardaway. And Memphis continues to have turnover issues down the stretch. They miss their free throws a little bit too often for my liking. We saw it again yesterday against Tulane, a very sloppy finish that almost cost them as Ron Hunter's Tulane bunch almost beat them because of Memphis not finishing a game out strong. It's not what you want to see in a 3.5, 4-point favorite. So, yeah, the fade Memphis is a favorite train rolls on for me here today. This is one where I think it goes over. I mean, that's been an over-palooza with UAB versus Memphis head-to-head. All these games between these two teams seems to get into the 160s. So it's probably a high-scoring game as well. C-Mac, what do you think here in the AAC?
I don't know how these teams are going to get stops here. I don't know how UAB is going to stop Memphis. And then we know, you were just talking about it, how Memphis just kind of fucks around, plays with their food. And these games just come down the wire. All these free throws, missed free throws, fouls, back and forth. I thought it got too low. I saw 157.5. It didn't really get lower than that. I took the over. You know what I mean? Because I kind of waited on this.
Yep.
Yeah, they were still out there. I mean, there's 158s, but it just was a little while ago. I was like, I'm going to jump on it now. I think it's just a little bit too low. I think there's just both these two teams can score at will, have the players to do it, and don't play enough D. Because a lot of these games I talk about, I go to the under in these championship games, but I don't think so here.
All right, and our last game this is the last game that tips off before the Selection Sunday show and before the tournament field is announced. We've got the Big Ten Championship, Wisconsin and Michigan. Wisconsin 4-point favorites, 151 the total. Wisconsin plus 650. This is what I've got pending for this tournament. I didn't envision I'd have every conference tournament. I'd have a future alive in the championship game. I didn't think that when I placed all these bets, but here we are with a chance to, in every conference tournament game, cash a tournament future here. And Wisconsin's the one I've got here at plus 650. I think you would have asked people before yesterday's semifinals, they would have said we were probably going to get a Michigan State, Maryland Big Ten championship game. But Wisconsin and Michigan had other ideas. Wisconsin knocking off Michigan State. What a win for Wisconsin, because Michigan State was one of the absolute most red-hot teams going in the country right now. And Wisconsin ends up going toe-to-toe with them. A great performance by them, once again, offensively especially. I'm amazed, and I continue to be amazed at just this is by far, this crushes any past Wisconsin team offensively. What they are doing is spectacular. John Tonje is playing like a NBA star right now. That's how well he's playing right now for the Badgers. 32 points yesterday, 8 for 15 from the field. John Blackwell, 14 points. They got Klesmet. They've got Stephen Crowell down low. Great balance in their offense. Just they share the ball. I mean, this is not what I'm used to seeing from the Wisconsin Badgers. I'm used to seeing a team that I'm bored stiff watching because they don't make shots. They play very slow. This is kind of like a different Wisconsin. They're playing much quicker tempo-wise, and they're just a fluent offensive team. It's really a joy to watch, believe it or not, this Wisconsin Badgers team. I think they win this. I think they're better than Michigan, and that's no disrespect to Michigan. And Dusty May deserves a hell of a lot of credit. This is where we're finding out Dusty May's one hell of a friggin' coach, that what he did at Florida Atlantic, it's more so not so much the players. I think it was him, because look at Florida Atlantic this year without Dusty May. Not even close to the same team. And Dusty May had that team in the tournament, not even close to the same team. Michigan was not expected to be this good. Michigan, people wrote them off going into this Big Ten tournament, and even I did. And yet here they go. They rip off back-to-back wins against Purdue and Maryland in very, very impressive fashion. So Michigan, and what a end of the game with Trey Donaldson there, end-to-end, coast-to-coast with the layup at the buzzer to beat Maryland. How does Maryland allow that to happen? Get a body in front of him. You got to do something to impede his progress down the court. Nobody did at the end of that game. It was just poorly played by Maryland at the end. I'm going to cheer for Wisconsin. Obviously, I don't have to take them. I'm not laying 4 when I got the futures in my pocket, plus 650. If anything, I can hedge with Michigan money line. I think I might, because Michigan's playing pretty good. I might do a small, tiny hedge with Michigan money line, which is in that like plus 200 range, just to lock in some kind of profit. But I'm not going to bet too much on that, because I truly do believe Wisconsin's winning this Big Ten championship game here over Michigan. And this total's gone up. I think it's just a question of, the paces will be there. The question is, are the shots going to fall? But like I said, with these two teams, didn't they both go over yesterday? I think they did. Wisconsin versus Michigan State and Michigan versus Maryland. Both games went over the total. So it's hard to bet these unders with these teams like this. We've talked about this with UAB Memphis as well. Two very affluent offensive teams. that I could see this going over. I really like the over at 149.5. I would say now I see it as high as 151, 151.5. So be careful. It's climbing a little bit, but I do think it could be an over game. CMAC, Big Ten Championship. Yep. What do you like?
Yeah, I can't take it here. At 151, I just think there'll be a little bit more defense in this game. But I agree. I'm just not rushing to do it. I thought about it, laying the 3.5 here with Wisconsin, because I do think they're the better team. But I like how Michigan's played the last few days after they're kind of struggling down the stretch, which I talked about. And I worry like the turnovers, all that comes because Wisconsin, the way sounder team. Your free throws, best in the country, all that stuff you like to see. But, when these teams get together, some wild shit happens, and this could come down to the wire. So I stayed off. This is the last game, though. Maybe I'll live bet this, but I didn't jump on anything pregame.
There you have it. That's it. Told you it would be a quick show. We wouldn't even need 30 minutes. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Justin McKelvey, Old E, Black Thor King, Sean Smith, Keebs, Tally Boy 73,
what up?
Old E, Steven Jackson. We appreciate it. Nick Alvento, Canes Nation, Ross Pitts, hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. And thanks for joining us on a Sunday. And by the way, I will say one thing about the Selection Sunday show. If I see Ohio State or North Carolina in this tournament and they keep one of these great high-quality mid-majors out in favor of one of these teams, I'm going to lose.
Ohio State's nuts. They're not getting it.
Yeah, I got to believe. Please do the right thing, committee, please. And don't be scared to knock an Indiana out and put a Irvine in, but that'll never happen. Like, I thought Irvine's good enough to get in the tournament. Even Utah Valley, man, that's a really good team. I'd love for Utah Valley, an at-large mid-major that barely misses winning their conference tournament, like a Utah Valley or an Irvine yesterday. I'd like to see one of those teams get a chance over a power team that's mediocre with a 500 record, but that's never in a million years going to happen. It just isn't. They always defer to the power conference teams. It's unfortunate. Yeah, I'd love to see San Diego State in, Nick, over a North Carolina, Ohio State, Indiana, even Texas. Like, I know Texas is going to get in, but and they probably do deserve to get in, but man, I mean, it's such a mediocre season, and then they put a little run together here late, and it's going to get them in. That even frustrates me that they're going to get in over, an Irvine or someone like that, that I thought could be worthy of getting in, no doubt. But great stuff. By the way, your schedule this week: Monday's show tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. We will do a overall preview of the tournament from a future standpoint. So CMAC will have some futures that he likes. I'll have mine as far as the current prices. We'll talk about that. We'll also hit all the NIT stuff tomorrow. We're going to get all the NIT, the secondary tournaments, the NIT, the CIT, all those tournaments that are taking place, the secondary tournaments. There's games on Tuesday and Wednesday for those. We'll do those on tomorrow's show. On Monday, and that way we can clear the deck on Tuesday's show and Wednesday's show to be all about the NCAA tournament, and that's what we'll do. Tuesday we'll do the first 4 games for two. Actually, yeah, we'll do the first 4 games for Tuesday, and then we'll do the Thursday NCAA tournament games on Tuesday's show, and then Wednesday's show we'll do the Wednesday first 4 games, and then of course the Friday NCAA tournament games, and we will not be on with a show on Thursday and Friday this week because the tournament's going on. You guys want to watch. We want to watch. So we won't be on Thursday or Friday. And then we'll be back at this time next Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. So there you go. There's your Hitting the Books show for NCAA tournament week, or your schedule for NCAA tournament week coming up. All right, best bets to wrap things up. CMAC, 5 games to choose from. Where are you headed for your best bet?
Well, George Bay, it's down to 7.5. I don't want to give that. I got 157.5, but there's 158s. It's the over. UAB Memphis over.
There and that go. UAB Memphis.
I'm gonna take a prop here. Bez, a point guard for Yale, over 1.5 threes. I'm just gonna add that on here. It's plus 130. I'm just gonna put that on here. All right. I'm betting it. Just let everyone know.
There we go. Good stuff. And so a bonus player prop, UAB Memphis over 157.5. Best bet for Connor Mack. for this Sunday slate. My best bet for this Sunday slate, I'm going to go with, you know what? You're going with the total. I'm going to go with the side in that very same game, UAB and Memphis. This is the one tournament future that I am not hedging a penny on. I'm not putting any Memphis money line in my pocket. I truly think they're vulnerable here. I'm going to go with the Blazers. UAB +4 is still out there at some books. Make sure you shop around. A lot of books have 3.5, but let's go with the UAB Blazers +4 against Memphis. That's what we'll rock with for my best bet here for this Sunday card. And the other bets I like, just in case of, I've got a little bit of Cornell. I've actually got the Cornell future, so I leaned to Cornell plus the points. I did bet a small over there. George Mason +7.5, +8 against VCU. Very tiny bit on the over there. I'm just going to root for Tennessee against Florida. UAB in the over. I totally agree with CMAX over with UAB Memphis, and then a little bit on that Wisconsin-Michigan over. I got it at 149.5 with the Wisconsin-Michigan over. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. We can't wait all this week. We'll get you ready for the NCAA tournament Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday with shows this week.
Let's go.
Absolutely. Hit the like button on the way out. And that's it. For Connor Mack, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Sunday. Have a great selection Sunday. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we will be here to break it all down for you tomorrow. And I'm sure we'll bitch about some teams that got left out. Join us tomorrow on Monday, 5 p.m. Eastern. Of course. Natural. 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. We're back here Monday for another edition of the College Basketball Hitting the Books show. Until then, class dismissed.